Welcome to Raising the Curve, a podcast designed to teach you everything you need to know to be better with your money. In the wise words of Amy Schumer, we're slipping carrots into the brownie recipe.
I don't really get the saying.
It's kind of like eating vegetables that actually taste good. You know, like putting
Still
carrot
not
in the
with
brownie
you.
recipe.
Are you on the script?
It's basically like saying investing in finance can be boring but it totally doesn't need to be.
Okay. So we're making it fun by putting the carrot, aka the vegetables, which are good for you, into the brownie recipe.
Okay, we got there, okay.
Okay.
Wow, you've really got a finance brain.
Yeah, one of us has to.
This is true. Okay, come and learn alongside me from Vic Harris, ex-fund manager, where I'm going to ask all the questions that you wish you could.
And I'm going to be eating all the brownie you wish you could.
No, that's so not the joke, Vic.
Oh.
Okay, just come and talk and learn and laugh with us because together we really can raise the curve.
So our next guest, gosh, she was cool.
Oh, as soon as we saw her pop up on the video, I thought, you know, when someone just gives out this amazing aura
Like
of
beautiful energy. Yeah.
So Chancè Hindirlane is, originally she's from Congo in Africa and she's now living in the States and she has become a viral sensation.
Yeah. And that was all because she was getting an ultrasound and she found out she was having twins.
Was that the one that went viral or was it the other one?
And she was like, oh gosh. And
that's right.
Yeah, because she had a 5-month-old, I think, roughly a 5-month-old. And then she found out she was pregnant with twins. And she was like, oh my goodness.
Actually, let's play a little snippet of that.
Yeah.
What? You have twins.
I'm sorry, what?
You have twins.
I'm sorry, what? So like 2 of them?
There are 2 babies.
At the same time?
At the same time.
How do you even push them at the same time?
Honestly, the other thing that's gone viral recently, another one of her videos, is actually when she talks about how the village is no longer free.
Yes.
And what she's talking about is because she's African and she's grown up in a world where there's maids and there's cleaners and there's
nannies
help.
And
Yeah, and it's just normal. You have a village to help raise kids.
Yeah.
And now that she's living in the States, she's like, oh, where's the village?
And she sees a lot of women struggling to do it themselves or do it with a partner. And she's like, yeah, everyone needs a village, but the village costs so much.
Yeah, let's actually play some. It's quite good.
We need to start telling future mothers to financially plan ahead for their village. We need to make sure they understand a free village is no longer realistic, but it does not mean they're supposed to be doing this alone.
I just love how she's bringing a completely different perspective to motherhood and rather than guilting women into thinking that they're a failure if they can't do everything, she's actually saying the total opposite.
Yeah, do what you need to
live
survive
the life you want
and be happy and have good mental health and all of that. She's like, don't be afraid or ashamed to ask for help and realize that we've all been brought up with villages. So
everyone needs a village.
Everyone needs a village.
So we're not going to ramble too much longer, but this is an amazing episode. Actually, at the very end when she starts talking about dowries and stuff, this blew my mind.
Yes, so listen to the end.
Yeah.
As you always will.
Yeah, Chancè, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really amazing to have you on and we can't wait to get stuck in. There's so many questions we want to ask you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to get into it.
Basically, what happened was we came across the online viral video. I think what was really refreshing about that is that a lot of us, for example, I've spent a very small amount of time in villages and countries where that phrase of raising a family takes a village is still actually really evident. But for most of the Western world, that's kind of just a saying that people throw around.
Yeah, totally.
So can we just start there with you explaining your thoughts, feelings, and kind of like how and why that video was such a hit?
I think it's so funny when we say it takes a village, and it's a conversation I talk about all the time, and it can be very triggering. When people say it takes a village, I grew up in Africa. I was born and raised in Congo. I have the most stylish, beautiful mom on the planet. My mom used to wake up and she has these stunning dresses, like a hat, and she has 12 kids. So to me, I'm like, lady, are you a magician? How do you do this? And growing up, it didn't hit me that one, I had a nanny. I had a sitter, like literally a nanny and a sitter. We had someone who drove us to school. We had cooks, we had maids, and this is pretty typical in a lot of African countries. Now, are they well paid? Not always. But even the most average household is going to have that. After my mom has kids, she has this huge party the next day where she's like dressed, but she's not the one necessarily taking care of the baby besides breastfeeding. Someone else is. So my mom had this huge village, but some of it wasn't free too. Yeah, she had aunts and who would come in for the first few weeks, but then they would leave. But the people who were constantly there that were part of her village were the nannies, they were the cooks, they were the maids, they were the people helping her raise us. So when I moved to the US, and I had my first baby, my husband and I are this newly married couple, super excited to finally have kids. And my mom leaves, goes back to Canada, as one does. And now it's just me. My husband goes back to work because in the US, we don't really get paternity leave. And I'm a new mom. I'm young. I'm confused. And I'm looking around for friends. My friends are also young in their, mid-20s. They're out living their 20s life as they should be. I'm looking for a community. I even went on Facebook. I went on this app, Peanut, to get mom friends. I'm looking on social media for anything. Like, how do I do this? Like, I'm calling my pediatrician like, hey, my kid burped. Is that okay? Like, there's just no help. It was like,
are they dying? Are they dying?
I'm literally like, hey, it burps a lot. Is this normal? And I feel like I'm doing this by myself. And when I got pregnant, like 5 months later with twins, and I had to be...
Stop. We have to just stop for a second because we did see this video as well.
Literally find out I'm pregnant, and then I found that I'm in twins within a day. So we're freaking out. And then about 5 weeks later, they're like, oh yeah, it's a high-risk pregnancy. You need to be in the hospital almost every single day. We have no help. My husband is working. At this point, I'm like, no one in our family can take off time to be with my 5-month-old. We start looking at daycares. We'd start looking for a nanny. We're starting to now look for other things. There's no guides. I'm feeling guilty because I'm supposed to do this by myself. After all, I'm a mom. This is my job. I'm a stay-at-home mom at that. And as a stay-at-home mom, your job is to take care of everything. I'm supposed to have food ready, house clean, baby taken care of. That's what it seems like I'm supposed to do. That's what I see on social media, the moms baking with their kids every day. I don't even like cooking. So I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. And this is when I finally decided, you know what, maybe there's supposed to be a different way of doing these things. Maybe I'm not supposed to do it all. My husband was like, you're not happy. This is not working for you. We need to outsource. And that was the first time I thought about outsourcing. I'm like, what does that even look like? And we got a nanny. And then it hit me that maybe my village is not necessarily my mom taking off work for months because she can't. She has a job. When I outsource, when I sometimes go, instead of going to the groceries and I do Instacart, I get to spend an extra hour at home. All of that stuff is an extra hand that's supposed to help me through this process. And that's where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be telling my sibling. I have a lot of younger sisters.
Did you say you were one of 12?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of siblings. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be telling them, hey, after you have a baby, there's just going to be this village is going to come and help you. But I do tell them like, hey, after you have a baby, you and your partner should really consider what it's going to look like after having a baby. So that's when I started telling my siblings, like, yeah, this is really what is going to get you to a point of enjoying motherhood. I'm not saying it's necessary, but I'm saying it will get you to a point to enjoy this journey.
I would love to know in Congo, the idea of what that village looked like and how everybody can afford that kind of a village. Because, I mean, it was my perception that to be able to afford a wet nurse and a nanny and a housekeeper and all those things was really expensive. So how is it just normalized?
I think a lot of people, at least from what I saw, had live-in nannies. Like I think growing up, we had a live-in nanny. Even though I did grow up in a different class, even people in a lower class, middle class, growing up in Congo, I don't remember seeing a mom just having kids and doing it on her own. Like my sister had a baby. I might be like, hey, I have a daughter who's like 19. She's sitting at home. She's not married because that's a big thing. She's not doing anything. If you pay her.
She's not married, aka she's not doing anything.
I mean, she ain't got a man. So
she's very
not doing
free.
anything. Dust. Collecting dust.
Collecting dust.
What does she think she's doing with her life?
If you bring her to your house, like pay her school fees, bring her to the city, like that type of interact, like that's kind of how it is, which I guess really means the village was never free.
Yeah.
It was
because it was never free.
not really. It was like an exchange. I think it got romanticized into free labor, which I personally also have a huge issue with, because I'm like, it shouldn't be free for so many reasons.
Totally. And it's like, it takes a village to raise a child, but really it takes like a lot of money to raise a child, which then can pay for the village. And I guess what tips would you give to families or women heading into motherhood? Because this all sounds amazing, but it also sounds expensive, whether you're in Africa or in the US or New Zealand or anywhere in the world. To have that enjoyment of motherhood costs a lot.
I think I've talked about this before, but I would say start where you are. I didn't start having a 30-hour-a-week nanny. I started with 2 hours a day because that's all I could afford. I really like nice clothes. I like buying clothes. I like shopping.
Same.
But I'm like, it's a guilty pleasure. But there was a time where my husband and I had to sit down and prioritize. And maybe we don't go on as many dates this week, or maybe I don't eat out as much this week because I want to make sure I have a little bit on the side for my nanny, for my sitter. Let's say you don't have, that $40 an hour to pay a full-time nanny with an agency, but you have 2 kids and you want help for just, let's say 2 hours. So you can leave, go on a walk, do whatever you might do. Then use different reputable sources. Facebook is incredible. The mom groups on there. When I couldn't afford a nanny who all she did was nanny, I found moms who were looking to make a little extra cash on the side. I would say start where you are. Mm-hmm. Figure out where you can compromise in your life. Because I do think it can sound like it's so much more expensive than it is. Because maybe $30 an hour seems like a lot of money, but what if it was just for that 1 hour a week? If you're a stay-at-home mom right now who feels like you don't even get an hour to take a shower, an hour to run to Starbucks by yourself, that $30 an hour that you give to this one nanny a week or this one sitter, that could be the start of you finding independence.
Yeah, we always talk about money diaries and, when people are feeling a bit stressed and they're like, where can I cut back on spending? It's like, well, write down how, when you spend things, how it makes you feel. I think that's a really good point, is that $30 could be
game-changing for you.
Game-changing for your mental health, your relationship, your physical health, everything. Like if you could get an hour a week even.
Do you know what I don't understand though is... Were we always expected to do it all?
Do everything?
Because I kind of was under the impression, this might sound super naive, but I was under the impression that, mums 3 generations ago were just doing everything and that they were expected to do the housework and the cooking and the nannying.
And are we just the complaining nation?
I'm a bit confused.
Generation
Or did they always just have help? Like what?
It's crazy because the help was like hidden. Because like on TV, on the movies, you can remember the old movies where the husbands would come home and she's like in a nice dress.
She's like, here's a pie, darling. I've made cherry pie.
Oh, that makes my skin crawl. I'm like,
wait, do you ever see the kids around? The kids are not around. They don't show us a clip of who the hell's watching the kids. Because it's like, you see her and she's like, here, darling, here's food. And I'm like, babe, where is your toddler?
Yeah.
Also, do you remember, those videos that are like what he thinks he's getting when he marries me? And it's like her walking in with this like slinky dress, like, I'm so hot and I'm so put together. And then it's like they've got a vacuum cleaner. What you're actually getting, it's like pimple cream everywhere, like hair all. It's just like, we've been massively fucked over by advertising.
Like my boyfriend has 2 girlfriends and it's like this one and then the other one. Yeah.
Those moments when it's like what he expected versus what he got, they piss me off because I'm like, I'm sorry. If it's 2022 and you expect to come home, and I mean, if that's your agreement with your wife and that's what she likes, that's how she does things, more power to you. I think it's empowering for a woman to do whatever she wants. Mm-hmm. And if my want was to be home in a full gown to serve my husband and that's how I want to love him, that's incredible. More power to you. But it's like, if my husband expected that for me, like what he expected versus what he got, meaning like, oh, he expected to come home to a cooked meal and me dressed and his kids put together and he just come home and gets to sit on his ass and do nothing. I'm like, sir, if that was your expectation, you got the wrong one.
Yeah. There's a breakdown in communication
that
here.
We lost each other somewhere.
Oh my God, I just loved the use of the word sir in that sentence.
It's like you got the wrong one because what do you think I do all day? Oh, also when it's like, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so like what else am I supposed to be doing all day?
Why do you think that financial planning then has kind of been left out of the conversation when starting a family. Why are we not taught about that? And also, why is it not more
encouraged?
More normalized? It's not like, it's almost like the sense of guilt having to ask for help or pay for help, or I'm not around 24/7. I've got a nanny and a babysitter.
Well, because we've been told if, if you're a good mum, you give it all up for your kids.
Yeah.
That, like, a good mum is completely selfless. But like, I'd be absolutely shocking mum if I was pouring from an empty cup every day.
Yeah. When it comes to motherhood, a lot of people want to romanticize it. We want women to keep having kids. We don't want to tell them, hey, you need money to do it. That conversation should be had. It should be had. And it's almost this guilt thing that people feel very attacked when you say, you should try planning. You can't plan pregnancy. I know. Technically, all pregnancies are really just like most of them are surprises unless you're going through like IVF or whatever it may be. So I get it, but we can still plan. And that conversation seems like such a taboo. It's like, well, you're invalidating every woman who just accidentally had a baby or things happen. Listen,
100%. Or you're invalidating people that want to stay home, who want it and can do everything.
Yeah.
Again, I understand. However, let's be serious and look at how many women are suffering from postpartum depression. How many women are sitting at home literally telling you every single day, just go on social media. There are so many women telling us how much motherhood is taking a toll on them, but we should talk about it. We should talk about outside of the typical cribs, clothes, school. Let's talk about how much it's going to cost for you as a Black woman to have a safe delivery, because you need someone to advocate for you. Let's talk about physical therapy at the end, because I had twins and my body wasn't the same.
Yeah.
I deserve health after having a kid, but it's expensive in the US. Let's talk about our mental health. That's also expensive. Therapy costs, even with insurance. It's expensive. We thought about, okay, for a very long time, I have to take time off. They won't pay me for it. Postpartum care plan so that I have my partner there. All of those things, when I say plan ahead, that's what I mean. I don't mean like plan. Even you can even start before having a kid if you know you're going to.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, when's too early to start?
Because I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now to the point that
I'm like,
kind
we
of
need to start some baby funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't even have boyfriends, but need baby funds.
Honestly, there is no such thing as too early. If you know you have kids, why not? Especially if you have an idea. Like I used to say, when I told my siblings, I say, what kind of mother do you want to be? And every time I always hear like, oh, I want to be the mom that like just bakes cookies and goes to Pilates and drives a Range Rover. You've seen the videos. And I'm like, that's fantastic. So where are the kids when you're at Pilates? Who's cleaning while you're at Pilates? Oh, I still want to have fun with my husband after having kids. Awesome. Who's going to watch your kids when you go on a date? So think of the motherhood lifestyle you want and start preparing for it.
I'm kind of want to dig into the motherhood penalty. What about women that want to go back to work or that have taken time out a couple of years, couple of months, whatever it is, to have children and now have these financial impacts?
That's me.
That could last forever.
Yeah.
What advice or what do you think that needs to be put in place to ensure that, we don't have to choose, that we can have both, or, what needs to be put in place to give us the options? Well,
funny enough is I do it now. I've always done it. I had a very promising career. I loved what I did. I went to school. I've been interning since I was like 16. My first internship was in Congress because I saw myself working in Capitol Hill in DC. Like I loved what I did. Okay. I loved my career. And after having kids, I didn't feel like I want to give it up for good. I felt like, okay, what if one day I wake up, my kids are in school and I'm like, yeah, I want to go back and work. So I do something called keeping up with my resume.
Is that like a play on keeping up with the Kardashians? Keeping up with my resume?
I literally say, keep up with what's going on in your industry. So I will look at jobs that I would want in the future. Let's say like I want to be an engineer in the future. And that job requires a certification of some type. As I'm a stay-at-home mom, I would say like, hey, babe, we need to invest in this certification for me. So on my resume, it doesn't look like I had 3 years off. It just looks like I was advancing my career. I was taking different certifications to advance my career. Unfortunately, being a homemaker is not a respectable job in America, which is insane. So I may not be able to put that on my resume, but I can definitely put all the different conferences I attended. I can definitely put on my resume all the different certifications I got while I was staying at home. I try my very best to make sure I'm still marketable in the industry that I worked in. And I think that's something that we should tell women too. Not because it's like, well, I don't trust my husband. What if he stops taking care of me? I know for a fact my husband will always take care of me. And if we want to be real, let's also advocate for prenups. Like, what's wrong with prenups? A good prenup never hurt anybody.
Oh, we're well on board the prenup train.
Shit, yeah.
Thus,
Let's advocate for prenups. If I'm taking time away from my career to raise your kids and you decide you're done, you don't feel like parenting, you don't feel like being married to me anymore, no problem. Make sure that you can still financially support me.
Or that I'm compensated.
Like you were doing before. That I'm compensated for that work that I've done.
Aside from prenups, I guess, what in your opinion are other steps that women can take to ensure like financial security when they are taking that break from their careers?
I think if you're not taking a break from a career and you feel like you need a little bit more financial security, we can talk about your bank account and how you split your bank account. In my opinion, I think what works really great is having a family bank account, a personal bank account, a savings account, and making sure that whoever's working's income, there's a percentage. For example, my husband's working. When he gets paid, 40% goes into mine, or 20% goes into mine, 20% goes into his personal, and the rest goes into the family to be split into savings, spendings, et cetera, et cetera.
that's a great way to do it.
Yeah,
I feel like
that.
I may not be working, but I am working. I'm just working from home. So yeah, me and my husband are both getting equal payment from the job he's doing. So he's out working when he gets paid. The 40% is split 20-20 between us. And then the rest goes into the family account where you can, obviously bills account, savings, et cetera, et cetera. But I always have my own money.
I like that. Yeah. We were talking offline before this podcast around how, not belittling, but just like maybe controlling it must be to be like, here's your allowance and you go spend that how you want.
I'm not a fan.
And how do you build up savings and investments if you're not earning?
Mm-hmm. It's like, and it's not like he gets to decide. No, you get paid immediately. 20% goes here, 20% goes there, and the rest goes into that. There's no conversation that needs to be had. It's split. And I'm not staying at home, not doing anything. You get to work because I stayed home with your kids. You get to focus on advancing your career to where it is today because I got your back. Because if the roles were reversed, trust and believe, I would be extremely successful in my career if I knew I had somebody at home handling everything else for me. So you should get compensated.
What about if you're not in a relationship? What about for women who want to have babies on their own or don't have a partner? I can't even imagine having to pay for, what are we going to call it?
The village, the community.
Thank you. Yeah. I can't imagine having to pay for the village if I'm in a relationship, let alone single. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, one of my cousin's best friends in life, she's a single mom. One thing she told me is she just had to make a lot of sacrifices on some of the things she wanted to make sure she had the things she needed. Like, for example, we talk about outsourcing. She's like, I knew that I could not watch my kid 24/7. It's impossible. So I prioritize a few things, obviously food on the table, a place to live, and somebody to watch my kid when I can't. And I think everyone who wants to have a kid, they should. I just think we should also be mentally prepared for what that looks like if you have no one helping you. I think you should either invest in someone to help you or be prepared to kind of be slightly overwhelmed for a little while. And it's for a little while. I always say, though, we should always prepare to raise our kids by ourselves, even if you have a partner.
I agree. Yeah.
Anything can happen. Unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Knock on wood, we're going to live a long and happy life. My husband, he could need to work away from home for a month, which he has. I like to say to prepare to be a single parent at some point in time, but that's both of us. My husband has to prepare to raise those kids without me at some point, and so have I. That's why I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going to not make sure my career stays intact. I'm never going to stop working on my own career. Even if I'm not working, I want to make sure that I have a very strong resume in case there's ever a time when it's like, hey, you need to hop back on the job market. At the end of the day, you can save all you want, which I think is also a huge part, of course, saving. But it's hard. Like you said, today, everything is expensive. Preschool, I can't even talk about preschool. Once you have more than one kid, it's like paying for college. I'm pretty sure my kids' preschool costs more than my college did. So school average, nice preschool, $2,500 a month.
And if you have a few kids. You can see why some
Oh
women
my God.
can't even justify staying at home. Like they have to go back to work to pay that. I don't know. It's just like, but then they're paying for childcare. So there must be a tipping point where you're like, well, I'll just stay at home because
what's the
I
point?
don't think I can afford to have kids.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think I can. I mean, I'm being fully serious.
Can anyone really?
2,000 US a month. Like that is every time my rent goes out, I'm like, oh, imagine that.
Right, but it's
double.
Like, it's like a mortgage. It's like a mortgage.
Okay, so hold on. Let's then talk about how many kids you can actually afford. How would you in advance know, okay, I can afford one child or two?
Yeah, I would say like think about the life you want as a mom.
That's what you said at the start, and I like that.
And then add it up. Because personally, when my husband and I saw it, we want our kids to have extracurricular activities. I want my kids to be confident. And for me, what I learned is building confidence, meaning tries new things. Like I want my kid to have a really good quality of life. So I want him to have soccer. I want him to have horseback riding. I want him to have, dance, whatever he want to be a part of. Add those things up because they add up. Do they need those things? No. But like, I want those things for them. So I'm going to think about it. Like I have to think about what type of mom do I want to be? I want to be the type of mom that shows up at ballet practice every single day, that shows up at all the PTA meetings, that shows up in the middle of the school day because they have an event. And for me to be that mom, I need to make sure our home is good. So I know that while I'm at school doing a PTA meeting, somebody has to be here watching the other kids. I want to be the type of mom that primarily focuses on the little things with my kids because I grew up, I'm an immigrant child moving to the US. My mom was never there, or my aunts were never there at my debate competition, my dance competition, my basketball, my track meets, and it hurt. As a kid, I understood they had to work. But still, when you look out in the bleachers and your parents are not there because they're working, as a child, you're not thinking, oh, my parents are working to provide. You're thinking, no one's here to cheer me on. And I want to be the type of person or type of parent who gets to be there every single time because I invested in that. So when you're thinking about, well, how many kids can I afford? Sure, maybe it's just one because you don't want to pay for a nanny to watch the other kids while you go to the other kids' soccer practice. Or maybe it's two because you want to take both of them. But we stopped at 4.
I mean, that's a lot less than 12.
Yes.
Capped at 4. I mean, we did have the 2-for-1 special. So like,
Yeah. I think I'm going to have a half just to afford.
I need a torso.
Yeah.
We definitely got that 2-for-1 special.
Maybe we just share a baby. We have half each.
Okay.
That's kind of what it's like having a partner. You just kind of share the kid.
Chancè, do you know, I think I'm feeling a bit
overwhelmed.
Yeah, I feel sad because I think if I'm being really honest with myself, with you, with Vic, I don't know if I'll be able to afford the type of lifestyle that I know will make me the best mum I can be. So what kind of advice would you have for people who aren't in a position where either maybe they already have kids and they can't afford help and they're struggling, or they're like me and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to ever be able to get there.
I can only afford myself right now, let alone throwing someone else in there. It feels very, very overwhelming. Yeah.
I would say, 1, take a breath. Breathe through it.
Okay, I needed that.
And then I will say, you have to remember that 1, you are so much more capable of more than you think. And as hard as parenting is, as crazy as all of this sounds, there comes a point where you find this insane balance, and it may come in very different ways. So when I couldn't afford a nanny and my husband and I had twins who were waking up every single night and wouldn't sleep until 3 a.m., we were in a space in our lives where the only time we had time for ourselves is by piggybacking off each other and figuring out where the other person is. I had to find different ways to balance that alone time. Before I had someone coming in doing it to give me an hour to myself, instead of waking up at 6, I woke up at 5 a.m. to have an extra hour to literally sit, have coffee, go on a walk. Sometimes it meant that when the kids nap, I left the house dirty so I can nap. You start to find different ways to balance. So yeah, maybe right now you can't afford a nanny, you can't afford a cleaner, you can't afford a cook, you can't afford daycare, childcare, but your kids are maybe toddlers that sleep through the night. So you dedicate 30 minutes, you wake up 30 minutes earlier, just 30 minutes. So you can sit, you can journal, you can read, you can do something just for you. Maybe that looks like, when they nap, your house stays a mess. You don't clean up right after. You take a nap too. Personally, I like to clean as I go, and I like to involve the little mess makers when I do it. So what I will do is I'll make it fun. Like maybe you're looking for ways to spend time with your kids because you want that. You involve them in the activities. I involve them in cleaning so that when they're napping, the house is clean, I can nap.
Here's some spray and wipe. Here's a mop. Let's make it a game.
There's some skid marks there, kiddies.
You meet yourself where you are. And
I love that.
Slowly, you start to find ways to incorporate more. When maybe you start saying, okay, I can afford 1 hour a day. Okay, cool. Maybe now I can afford 2. But as overwhelming as it is to get to the place where you're like, oh yeah, I'm good. I can now afford 30 hours a week. I can now afford a housekeeper. I can now afford a laundry service. You have to start from somewhere. You reprioritize where your money goes. You allocate time to what matters most to you. And you take where you can and you give where you can. Maybe this means you can only give your kids a good 30 minutes of mom time. You start giving and taking where you can, and you don't feel guilty about it. You fight that guilty feeling because I deserve 40 minutes to myself a day. And if that means they are sitting up on that screen, then let them and Miss Rachel have a good time. You're not supposed to be 100 every day. Learning to apologize to your kids and learning to learn from your mistakes. Because, we all kind of just winging it.
Yeah.
True.
There's no rule book. No, I like that it's all about not feeling guilty as well.
Yeah.
I think
Mom
there's a lot
guilt
of
just
mom
sounds
guilt.
like such a gnarly thing.
Mom guilt is the worst. It's so irrational. It's like,
Well, I just like the way that in general your whole ethos and the way that you're approaching this conversation is, you know what, like you're human and it's so important and normal to ask for help, to also then save to pay for help. Like I think that
to not be okay, to feel overwhelmed, like just you seem very...
Well, you're just changing the narrative massively.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think especially when for a long time we're told that our worth is in being a mother, it then feels like you're abandoning that birthright or that responsibility or your role in a family. But actually...
It's changing and adapting.
Even today, if you were to read 20% of my comments, it's like, well, what do you do? If you have a nanny, if you have this, what do you do? What is your job? Where do you come in? And it's having that confidence to understand that my role as a mom, man, it goes above and beyond being a housekeeper, a cook, and a clean. I'm raising humans. We are shaping and forming minds of little people. Does that role come with cooking and cleaning? Yeah. But the way my husband and I look at it is like, especially when it comes to equal partnership. If it's something that he would have to do, whether or not he had kids, whether or not he had me, then that falls under that equal partnership. Like, that's not my role. That's a house role. If you had a wife or not, you would still need to do the dishes. You would still need to eat. You would still need to scrub the bathrooms. At least I would hope you're doing that. You would still need to do the laundry. So why should that fall on the wife as a stay-at-home mom? Because now you have to go out and work. So do the 9-to-5 thing where my job starts when his does and then it ends when he gets home. And then we both tackle everything else. Where my job as a stay-at-home mom is a mom. I'm focusing on the mom part, right? Just the kids, feeding them, learning with them, taking care of them, spending time with them. And it's like, okay, so I'm not necessarily a stay-at-home maid. I'm not a stay-at-home cook. I'm not a stay-at-home, I'm a stay-at-home mom. So let me mom. And I know that means different things to everyone. But to me, it means being there for my kids in all the ways that I can. It means learning my kids. It means knowing my kids' personality. And that requires spending a lot of time with them.
It's so refreshing to hear a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like it really is. And also unapologetically, this is the way it should be.
Yeah.
So thank you for being such a trailblazer in the space of, what it means to be a mom and what it looks like to feel independence within what society's told us you should have none. And I think that that's just like, for a lot of women, I imagine, whatever their dynamics are, I don't even if you're listening to this and you're like, shit, we didn't start the way we now want to continue. You can always turn that boat around, team.
Yeah.
You can have conversations now.
Even if your kids are 18, you can turn it around. Okay.
Send your husband this podcast.
Yeah.
It's like we get the opportunity to see other things, you know? Like social media is so cool. We get to see different ways of doing things. We get to pick and choose a dynamic that works for us, because that's why I started creating content, because I was like, I don't see someone doing it like this. And that's what I want.
What I also really like about your content, just as an aside, is that content creators, influencers, whatever we want to call them, I just love when somebody's voice is amplified because it started by having something they wanted to say.
Yeah.
And not because they looked really sexy in a bikini.
Yeah.
They're trying to sell something.
Oh, you're like, right.
Yeah, I think I'm grateful for social media when people like you come up in the algorithm, because
I love that.
It's important to challenge the way that we've always thought about things, learn how we can do it differently, learn from different cultures and different people's upbringings, and the way that things have always been. It doesn't have to be the way they always will be.
I literally have my mom, who's very African, and I send her my videos all the time, and like she will see my husband doing all the things, because to them, they don't believe a man should do anything. That's how she grew up. I've seen her change her point of view. I've seen her be so proud of the things my husband does. And I've seen her start to expect more of some of the other men in our lives. I've seen her watch videos. I used to send her videos. She thought they were only for her, which is the cutest thing.
You're like, no, ma'am, a few million people have seen those.
I'm like, sorry. But she literally is like, oh, I show these videos to like, she likes to like, she works in the church. So like young women are getting married. She's like, oh, I show them that. Yeah, they should now expect that. But that comes from the women who at our dowry party, my husband picked up a broom to sweep. And every single woman in that building lost their mind. They were like, no, why would this man have to do labor? It was hilarious. But like, I mean, it started there.
Sorry, can we just pause for a second? Did you say dowry party?
I did, yeah.
Did you have a dowry?
I did.
Could you just quickly talk to me through that? Because I thought that was something I only see in Bridgerton.
In Bridgerton?
No, but like I didn't realize that it was still so prominent.
Yeah.
African cultures, most of the ones that I know still do dowries. Absolutely. And of course, all the different cultures have different reasons why they do the dowries. For us, the dowry started honestly because a woman couldn't have a job. And if you take a woman from her family, whatever lifestyle you bring her into becomes her lifestyle. So if you as a man couldn't prove that you can maintain or upgrade that woman's life, obviously their parents are not giving her to you. Lack of better words. Because like, let's say, for example, I got married to a man who doesn't have a job. That means I don't have a job. That means I don't eat. So not only do you use a dowry as a way to thank the family for raising the woman, but it's also as a way to saying, okay, I can actually provide for her. I have income. I've saved up. I'm able to take care of your daughter. Here in the US, back in the home, they would throw the party. It would be cows, goats. That's how they pay it. But here it's transferred into monetary. So like one cow is $1,000. And the dowries are pretty expensive. Depends on the culture. They could range from like $20K to $200K. It's not small money. It is a lot of money. The families use that money to like plan your party, of course, to buy you things for your home, to kind of like prepare your home. But every time I talk about a dowry, you know, Americans are like, oh my God, it's like buying you. I'm like, well, your fiance buys you a $30,000 ring or $5,000 ring. What's the difference?
Wait, so what do you still think about dowries now that you're married? I mean, do you have a problem with them, or do you totally see and understand them?
Honestly, I did one. My husband did one. It is a really big part of my culture. And I am really glad he did it because it just shows his respect. My husband's not Congolese, he's American. So not only does he show his respect to my culture, I also understand why my mom would want that. Not only am I marrying a man outside of our culture, she's never met him. She doesn't know any history about him. That's what gives her that safety net of saying, okay, that to her, because, you know, that's how she grew up. To her, it's like, oh, he paid a dowry. This man is serious about my daughter. This man is showing not only that he can provide for my daughter, that he knows that my daughter is worth working hard, saving for, and providing that proof, really. Because like, put your money where your mouth is. That's really how they see it.
So sorry, does he pay your mum, and your mum also pays him? Does it go both ways, or it's just him
just one way.
Oh, okay.
Him. Yeah. Because I mean, he's not being taken from his home. I got taken from my home. He's not going to be the one that's like giving up his career. It's going to be most likely me. It's another way of making sure your daughter is safe. Some families save the dowry for their daughters. So if he was to leave, whatever, I have that dowry to take care of me if he stops. Some cultures do that. Some cultures use the money to plan the party, buy them furniture for their home, make sure she's coming into the home prepared and ready, put a down payment on a home. It just depends on the culture and how they want to prepare you for marriage. And I have daughters, of course. So we talked about it, and I will absolutely tell them about the dowry. I will tell them why we did it. The only difference is I won't force it on them. If they don't feel like practicing, that's fine. Will I ask them to? No, but I will tell them why we did it and why I think it's so important, because it is a big part of our culture. And if they marry someone that's African, it won't be too hard. They most likely will do it anyways. But if they don't want to, and they're like, I don't want to participate, that's fine. And if my sons don't want to pay a dowry, that's fine too. But I will tell them why we pay them. I will tell them why they're there. And I will tell them why my husband did it. And he'll probably tell them why he did it too.
I feel like it's definitely something I'd like to learn more about, because, and maybe now is not the time, but I definitely, it's interesting to me that for you, you're not like, oh yeah, I've been bought, like that for you, you're like, no, this is part of my culture and it's something I respect. And
yeah, because it's like I could say that about American women. Like, he buys you with a ring.
Yeah, no, true.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good comparison.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Yeah, because it's like, rings cost thousands of dollars too. And a lot of people are like, I wouldn't be married without a ring. Like, of course not.
I've never thought of it like that, but I think it's so true. It's exactly the same. Yeah.
You could say it's just a different form of a dowry, because like, if you ask an American, what does the ring symbolize? Most people can't tell me.
We've had this conversation about who should pay for the ring. Like, is it a shared? Well, it's an interesting one, because it's like, why should it be really up to the guy?
Well, I mean, the way I grew up, the way we think about it, just statistically speaking, who is going to gain more from being married, the women or the men? And I'm not talking about what society want to tell us. The reality of it, who gains more? It will always be the men. It will always be the men. Who stands to lose more in a marriage? It will always be the women. And that's not to say, oh, well, it's just a fact. Like, no matter how equal of a partner you have, he's never going to have to give up his boobs to breastfeed. He's never going to have to carry the babies. My husband is incredible. I couldn't ask for a better equal partner. And honestly, if he could do it, he would. But he can't. He biologically cannot carry my kids for me. So yeah, at some point in time, I have to put my body in danger. And being pregnant is more dangerous than like 80% of the jobs you could do in the world. At some point in time, I have to give up my career. At the end of the day, he gains more from marrying me. And then sometimes I would gain from marrying him. If he stays single, never has kids, perfectly cool. His life won't change so much. If I stayed single and never had kids, are you kidding? I would be living a completely different life right now. So why should I also be the one that pays for a ring? I'm not marrying you. You're marrying me. Same thing with a dowry.
I've never thought about it like that ever. And it's actually super interesting. And I love, or even just all the small things that you pointed out, even just around boobs and body and the danger of being like that. I'd never thought of that, because you kind of just take it as a given. Well, they can't do it. I have to. So
yeah.
But no, it's like, think about and if you were to try to put that in a monetary form, you could not.
No.
You could try, because I have. You could try.
I bet you have.
Yeah. Think about how much it costs to have a surrogate.
Yeah, true.
That's $100K, easy. Give me a ring for $100K. Multiply that by 4 kids. So
yeah, $400,000 ring. Thank you.
You know how many men? I want to be a father. I want to be a father. I want my legacy.
Cool. Well, that's going to cost you, babe.
Fantastic. But can you afford a legacy?
Because I'm expensive. This womb is effing expensive.
Try buying one. That's what honestly, when people try to like downplay what I do as a stay-at-home mom, or what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a married woman, I'm like, try it. I gain a lot from having my husband, 100%. I know that. He's an incredible man. But him having me, yeah, he also gains a shit ton, especially in society. So yeah, buy that ring. Go ahead, spend that money. Pay that dowry. You should.
Pay for me.
I love it.
And I don't feel guilty about it. Like,
Oh, I'm so here for this. And it's
Yeah,
honestly
I know.
really
I wanna
changed.
be like, yeah.
It's changed my perspective so much.
Yeah, I was like, dowries are when you're being bought and like just had
Same.
really, not negative, just misunderstood.
And honestly, when people tell me that, they're like, that's not like you're being bought, I'm like, couldn't afford me. So no, you cannot pay for the companionship. You can't. And don't get me wrong, it's the same way, other way around. I cannot pay for the companionship. But that peace that comes with going to work, knowing your kids are good, knowing they're taken care of, they're loved, you can't pay for that. You can have a nanny, but when you have a nanny, you're on call. Anything happens, it's still you. If the school calls, it's still you. But right now, my kids need to come home early from school. They'll call me, right? Having that peace of mind is what allows him to go to work, focus on his career, advance in career. All of that, priceless. Because you are going to make more money. Men who are married make more money, live longer, are happier, have better lives.
You know your shit, don't you?
Yeah.
I love how much you've thought about this. Every time we ask you a question, I'm like, I wonder what she'll say to this. And I'm like, no, she's thought about it.
Yeah.
I have too many younger sisters. We talk about this way too much. And I'm clearly a little too passionate about it. So,
No, it's great.
Oh, it's so important.
Good. Such good energy. Thank you.
I also just think it's really cool that it comes from someone that's from a completely different part of the world to us and has a completely different experience of being in a dynamic of a mother, a father, and kids. And also, I think the coolest part of the whole thing as well is that even you know, it's not like your mum modeled this to you either. This is just something that you're like, hang on a bloody second.
Yeah.
This isn't right. And I'm actually going to talk up about it. And I don't care if I'm public. I'm probably going to get lots of people telling me I'm being lazy or that I'm like blah, blah, blah.
You're
it's
questioning the status quo.
Yeah. And it's honestly so empowering. And we need more people that are challenging
question the status quo in my family too, because African culture, men are not supposed to do a lot of those things. I think in the African culture, for the most part, the idea of a provider is he goes home, makes money. And that's in a lot of culture, honestly, brings home the bacon for say, and that's it. The only difference for the most part, African men also understand that a lot of the time we need nannies, we need housekeepers. US men don't get that part from what I've gathered, because when I post about having a maid or a cleaner, a lot of the men that get mad at me are like American men, because they're like, then why does he have a stay-at-home mom? Yeah, my husband literally has had to go on my page and make videos and be like, she's a stay-at-home mom, not my maid, not my cleaner.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you have to do that. That's crazy.
Still has to do that. But a lot of African men, I think in our cultures will understand that. But here in the US, it's like a stay-at-home mom, it's almost like having your built-in everything. And that's why I'm really excited to have kids in the US who are being raised in a different way, who can see different ways of doing things. I actually started posting my vlogs because I wanted to have videos of me going through motherhood and saving them for when my kids grow up so they can look at how I balance things, what I struggled with and how I came through it. So I'm really excited to have that for my daughters and my sons to see. And it's going to be one of those things where hopefully they don't have to go through what I went through at the beginning to find that balance. By the time my daughters have kids, they don't have to feel guilty for having a nanny. It's just life. By the time my daughters have kids, I hope they don't have to expect a man to just bring home the bacon and that's him being an equal partner.
Well, I hope we're not even having this conversation.
Amen.
At that point, you know? Yeah.
All of our content pages will be very irrelevant.
Yes. Our business will be down the drain.
Our business will be down the drain. Your content will not matter anymore.
Yes. And we would have progressed and it'll be great.
I really hope that. I really do. I really hope that we've progressed enough to where we don't have to advocate for, you know, equal partnership, where that's just the norm.
Yeah. Dreams do come true.
Dreams come true.
But we just wanted to say a big thank you. That's been the most amazing, insightful chat, and we could have talked for hours and hours. And I just think,
appreciate you actually doing the brain work, because I don't think I would have come to that conclusion on my own, honestly.
No. It's just so refreshing. It's like, it was overwhelming, but then it was like, you
so
know,
easy,
you've got
actually.
this.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes me feel like I'm worth more. I feel more expensive for some reason.
It's the same.
And you are, because like put a price tag on it and you couldn't, and you are.
Yes.
Shit, yeah. I've got if I had 100 kids, that's $1 million that I've made out of my womb.
Ooh. Gosh, your womb,
I would have probably no vagina left, but
God. And on that energetic number.
But thank you so much for your time. And it was so great to have you on. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Raising the Curve. These conversations are designed to teach you everything that you need to know to be better with your money, from saving to investing to talking to your friends about your salaries.
And if you liked what you heard, we would love it if you could hit the subscribe button, please.
Yes,
or
please.
Better yet, leave a review. It only takes 5 seconds and it would really make our week, our year, our month.
Okay. Lots of love. See you soon.
Bye.